goth as you could be in the early 80s.
Add stream.
And that was just for like a children's party, maybe.
All right, we're live.
Oh, we are?
Great.
Oh,
That was
hey.
Good
Okay.
timing for me to have a craving for smoke.
Yeah, great
This is
time
why
for me to need to use the
you
restroom too.
On this like a half an hour prior to going on. That doesn't make sense. You're gonna want to
yeah.
it's into it.
I had a cigarette like 10 minutes ago, but whatever. Anyway,
Oh, you just smoke too much. That's all it is.
exactly.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start streaming on my end then.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jaden stop?
Okie dokie.
No, I didn't stop.
It's the Co-op SoapBox podcast, everybody. Once again, I am Rodon, or Awakened Rodon on Twitter and on Twitch. I have my associate who is currently just blacked out in white. What? Is just currently in white, buttered toast.
Hi.
I have Aaron above me, Aaron, and I have Anthony all the way to my top right.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, I know. It's great, isn't it? So today we're going to be going over a few topics. We're probably going to keep it relatively loose, but I think that what we really ought to focus on right now is the incoming transition of the Biden presidency and what we hope or definitely want to see coming out of that. And I think I know for certain the very first thing that I'd like to see coming out of that administration day one is COVID relief, if it hasn't already passed. And secondly, student loan forgiveness is a big one.
So are we making a wish list here? Because I mean, we're also looking at a Republican Congress.
Yeah.
And I understand that. We are kind of looking at a wish list, but as far as the student loan debt goes, I believe that can actually, a certain amount of that can actually be subsidized through executive order, can it?
I'm not certain about that. That's kind of like a Treasury Department. That could be a Treasury Department issue, and in that case, that's not.
I think it was. I think it was one of the things that Joe Biden could do as an executive order. I just don't. I think that there was a certain number that he wouldn't be able to go over without it going through Treasury. So
I would think that would be a budget issue.
Yeah, it's a budget issue.
And if it's a budget issue, you do understand which branch of the government handles budget issues, don't you?
Congress.
Correct. So I feel like he can't just sign an executive order for that large of a sum of money, which is why somebody was mentioning to me earlier today that the Democrats, through Warren and who was it, Chuck Schumer, lowered it. You know, initially the plan was to forgive all student debt, and then they lowered it to like $50,000 or something like that. And then the latest suggestion by Joe Biden was $10,000. And it's probably going to be reduced even more to like 1,000 or some god awful thing that really doesn't do anything per person. So,
yeah, it's a negotiation right now, and that's unfortunate because these negotiations almost always end up falling short.
Well, I'm gonna look this up right now and see if I can get more information on it. But we all we here at least understand that the economic impact that a student relief program or student debt relief program would have on this country would be profound.
Well, we're looking at the end of unemployment benefits for COVID relief as well coming up. That's ending, I think, this week.
We're also looking at an end to the rent moratorium or the eviction moratorium as well.
And the lowest in-person shopping rate on a holiday season in history, but we also have a record online rate, so we don't know if that's evening out or not.
It's possible it is.
We don't know what economic impact anything's going to have
Right.
on it. Forgiving student loan debt at this point could have a negligible economic effect. What we should be dealing with is,
I mean, at this current moment, at the juncture that we're in, November 29th of 2020, COVID relief is definitely more important than
Well, not only
student loan
that,
debt.
but I think the average student loan debt is about $30,000 per student. And just to give you guys a good understanding of how screwed it really is, the interest that you accrue is considered your overall balance usually. So it's $10,000 of the balance of your loan. That's not counting principal. So in those student loans, they accrue interest on the interest. It's compounding. It's not amortized like an auto loan or a mortgage. And what amortization is a whole nother concept. Talking about that is a whole nother stream. But let's say you have 30 grand in student loan debt, you're going to be knocked down to 20. That's great, but I mean, 30 million Americans are still poised to be homeless.
I mean, absolutely. COVID relief is definitely it's up there, and I think Congress needs to get their act together and actually act like adults for once. Sit down at a friggin' table and say, look, okay, we disagree on this, but people are dying. They are dying. They are getting evicted. They don't have enough food to put on their table for their kids. We don't have time to deliberate.
But Tim, you're wrong. They act like adults when they're talking to ExxonMobil or JP Morgan Chase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're absolutely just beholden to their corporate masters, and it's so utterly disgusting that I can't. It bothers me so heavily.
Mitch McConnell has already made a similar pledge to his original pledge during the Obama administration, which was to stop Obama from legislating. Mitch McConnell is ready to pit the Republican Party full force against the Democratic Party yet again.
Yeah.
To try to make them ineffective this time around for this presidency. Mitch McConnell is willing to sink the whole ship. In the parable where Solomon has divides up the baby, he just took half of the baby. Mitch McConnell is not. No, he's a monster, and he will not allow anything Joe Biden wants to go through. And if he does anything like that, student loans or what relief or whatnot, even COVID relief, I'm certain he's going to block.
Yeah. He's already done it.
Sure, I can drop that. So, so we have Mitch McConnell on that end, who is just insane and willing to power broke the whole thing and willing to sink the whole ship. He is he is as dangerous as Donald Trump ever was.
He is significantly more dangerous because he has the intellect above that of an animal. I mean, like,
you're right.
Listen. You can say all that you want about Trump. He's not an intelligent politician. Just because you can play to a populist mindset does not make you an intelligent politician. That makes you a politician that understands fundamentally that politicians are supposed to work for their constituents. And even though Donald Trump is a fake populist and doesn't actually believe that, that's how you get votes. That's how Bernie Sanders got so many votes in the primaries, both in 2016 and in 2020. And why he was such a big contender was because he was a populist candidate that cared about the constituency more than he cared about other things, like like building a wall or lowering taxes on the obscenely wealthy, and in turn some of the lower class as well, but only temporarily, but not temporarily for the corporate class. You know, Donald Trump doesn't have any political instincts. McConnell has political instincts, and that's why he's more dangerous. You know, Trump has not been in the Senate. He has not been in legislature. He has never been anywhere to do with actual policy outside of his own businesses, which he probably didn't even like. He would just hire people to run them, right? So he wouldn't even run his own businesses, which ended up going into the ground anyway. So, you know, I like Donald Trump is a worm, and I'm glad that he's on his way out. And for the people that voted for Donald Trump, I understand why you were trying to do what you were trying to do, and I understand why you were voting for Donald Trump. It's just not the right call, and I hope that you can see that it's not the right call by watching more creators, reading more about what is going on, and not just taking everything from Facebook and Instagram. I swear, I can't. I don't know. I'm just frustrated tonight. I apologize, guys.
Okay, so excuse me. There is right now a theory going around. By the way, the theory is argued by some as being possible and some as being not possible. But there are questions as to whether Mitch McConnell has any authority over Biden's cabinet picks, whether he can veto a cabinet pick by the president. It's an odd thing, but it's already showing that McConnell is on his way to start his obfuscation,
which is the main reason why we have to do our best to take it's definitely not looking likely, but if we can take Georgia for the Senate, hey, you know, in that January runoff race, that could be a very pivotal moment for the United States.
Yeah, it could be. I don't see it happening, but it could be. Still, well, yeah. Any win also has a symbolic virtue to it, but in this particular case, it would show a radical shift away from the politics as usual for Georgia, at least.
Oh well, I mean, Georgia going, you know, blue for Biden like that in the way that it did was kind of it's, you know, kind of spoiled the election. You know, spoiled the election.
It shocked the voters. It certainly did.
It was surprising. It was.
I mean, we joked about Texas being a big deal because Texas hadn't gone blue for 40 years, but Texas was always on a trend towards blue, and it had been in the last 4 elections. So we guessed that this was the election when Texas was going to turn over. We just weren't sure. So Texas did end up turning over, so the prediction was correct. And then Georgia, which we never expected to go blue, went blue, and that was just remarkable. I wouldn't expect that for any future elections.
I actually think that it's the opposite. I think that maybe just maybe, because there was huge turnout this year for both candidates. There was a really big turnout this year for both candidates, and it's pure speculation without the random piece on the board that is Donald Trump. What is going to happen next? Are the people that have voted now more politically active because they recognize that having a bad president can really be horrible. You know, the younger people.
The culture of voting has definitely changed over the course of the last 4 years. It got more important when we noticed that the primaries were important. We started paying attention to the primaries, and in the case of Bernie Sanders supporters, I feel like we on our side lost that election because we were not prepared for the kind of attention that a primary was going to get and how much manipulation that would lead to.
I mean, really, it was
or might have been the other way.
All of the major candidates except for Warren backing out and backing Joe Biden, and then the media also backing Joe Biden, like immediately as soon as South Carolina went his way. Or was it North Carolina? I can't remember. South Carolina, thank you. It was mostly just a conglomeration of power. And as much as I hate saying, oh, the forces that be, well, it was the forces that be. The people in positions of power that were able to disseminate information and disseminate media were able to do so in such a way as to say, hey, look, Bernie's never going to win. He's not going to win. It's not going to happen. Look at it. He's not going to win. Vote for Joe Biden. He's the electable one, you know? And Joe Biden won this election. And good. I'm glad that he won over Trump. But at the same point in time, I still wanted Bernie to win. Of course I did.
Well, yeah, and the argument didn't make sense to us because we were saying Joe Biden's getting all of the support and all of the endorsements and all of the money, and yet Bernie Sanders is still at 48%,
which I think is really good.
I mean, you've got all of the money back, you've got all of the Democratic establishment backing the other guy, and Bernie Sanders is spending more because people are giving to his campaign. That was the first time that happened. That was, and that was, in my opinion, was the first representation that the Bernie Sanders movement had a possibility of winning, was when it was outspending and outraising money over any candidate, including Donald Trump with his own money.
I mean, yeah, the testament of Bernie's legacy and how popular he was. It shows how far an actual populist candidate can get in this country, just based on policy. Policy.
And as weird as it sounds, the election of Trump, the primary victory of Trump, shows that even with the pushback of the establishment, you can still force in a candidate nobody wants.
Yeah, and the Electoral College, in my opinion, has to go. But Aaron, you've had some concerned looks throughout this discussion. Is there something you'd like to share with the class?
I mean, there are just some particular things that Anthony, actually both of you had pointed out. I'm trying to remember what exactly they were, but I would just kind of like to interject a little bit. If you recall at the beginning of, after Iowa especially, notice that the establishment Democratic Party kind of waffled on who it was that they wanted to be their nominee, right? Like at first, or for a few weeks, it seemed like it was actually Pete Buttigieg among all the people, because they were really trying to propel him as the winner of that race. And oh my God, he won, and he's so big, and he's going to take this away from Bernie and anybody else. And then
it was like 30%.
Yeah, and then the narrative kind of changed, a little bit after
New Hampshire, and then there was Nevada, and Bernie fucking crushed it in Nevada, and I could not be more proud.
And you can go back and watch episodes of John Oliver's show and listen to him make fun of the fact that they were announcing Pete Buttigieg's astonishing win. He crushed his opponents, and there was like Bernie Sanders at 52%.
It was like 2%.
Buttigieg had like 33 or 30 something percent. I can't recall the exact, but it was so astonishing. I mean, it was just, yes, he got more than any of the other Democratic votes aside from Bernie, but it made it sound like you were trying to win against Bernie.
I remember there was a screen cap from the primaries where it was like all of the candidates with percentages, and they had other, and it was like a majority, and it was Bernie. That other just meant Bernie, basically, but they didn't list Bernie. He was just in the other category. Are you fucking kidding me? It's such a blatant corruption of media. It is such a blatant corruption of the news. And yeah, I'll call that shit out, right? Like, I don't really like to buy into the fake news, headline shit, but to a certain extent, the media is absolutely ready and willing to fuck you over, given the possible chance to make money, and they will make more money by not showing people that Bernie Sanders was winning the primaries, and that ended up happening. So, but regardless, I think getting back to
I did want to let everybody know there was a third presidential candidate who also refused to concede in this election. We didn't know about him because he tends to be underreported on, but the Lord Vermin Supreme, the candidate from Utah.
Oh boy!
Are we talking about?
Sent out a series of tweets, first declaring that it was too close to call, and then declaring that he won, and then declaring that there was no reason to recount because he had won.
Wait, who are we talking
about? Wait, you've never heard of Vermin Supreme?
You have never heard of Vermin Supreme?
I mean, I've heard the terminology, but I've never heard of like the. I've heard it used towards many individuals, not just one.
He is a Utah politician and an artist who he's about 60 years old. His full name is Vermin Love Supreme. He is a libertarian, and he has run for president in Utah. He has run for president from the state of Utah for the past 6 elections, I think.
Am I being bamboozled?
No.
Legit.
No, this is
His name is literally Vermin Supreme.
Yeah. Vermin Love Supreme.
Okay, did you see the meme
right now,
with the boot on his head?
With the what on his head?
With the boot.
The boot.
The boot.
No.
Yeah.
No.
He wears a boot on his head, a large boot.
No, I was unaware of this. I suppose I just don't pay attention to irrelevant people. Sorry.
Gosh, I think he's kind of funny. Gotta have some. You gotta have some humor in your life.
And I mean that's fine. That's
he's on the ticket.
That's fine.
Listen, I understand that you're so ingratiated with Hillary Clinton's wet ass P word, but
right. Anyway,
maybe if you.
He's very politically active, and I know the first instinct that you have is to kind of shit on him as just a joke. But he has been very honest in his media appearances about the candidates who are running. That's what he does, is he spends a lot of time on the news making sure that people know who they're voting for. He spends money to do it. And honestly, if he became president, he would have still been a better president than Donald Trump.
If he does it in a decently honest way, then sure, go for it.
Vermin Supreme is
shocked that he didn't get further in the Libertarian primaries, to be honest. I am surprised and shocked that actually Jorgensen won against him. Like, he was actually really, really popular last year.
Vermin Supreme also officiates weddings, apparently.
Well,
yeah.
It's weird. With a name like that,
why not? You know, this document does entail the marriage of John and Sally, officiated by Vermin Supreme. Imagine having that on your marriage certificate. That'd be funny.
I would be proud of it. I'd be proud of it because Vermin Supreme is a heroic individual, and while he does this as a symbolic thing, and it seems like a joke, he really does spread awareness.
If he's spreading the good word, he's spreading the good word, and then I don't
And
really have a problem with him now, do I?
He's a libertarian, and I'm not a big fan of libertarianism, but I think that
Well, I think the type of libertarianism that we're used to in the U.S. it's not quite right, because the libertarian that we're used to in the U.S. is libertarian right. We're not really looking at libertarian left.
And to be specific, it is a altered, weird form of libertarianism that came out of like Mises and Rothbard and a few other weird far right.
It's just
yeah, it's a distortion of libertarianism. It's not even real libertarianism. It's its own weird thing.
I'm a libertarian leaning socialist, so I'm libertarian leaning left, and so economically my policies are far to the left, pretty far to the left, farther than a lot of people's. But on the up and down scale from libertarian to authoritarian, I'm kind of like I've dipped down into the libertarian bit, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with some of these ideas, but I think this needs to be handled by this body of government, and I think this like it's
in the opposite direction of a lot of people. A lot of people will go from like lib left up to like tanky Marxist sort.
Yeah, no, I like. Here's the thing: political ideology is such a huge spectrum that it's so hard to tell anybody what you're really on about without sitting down and saying, "Okay, do you have 5 hours? Good, all right," and then like spilling the beans about the policies that you believe in and the things that you want to see, the change that you want to see in the world. And I think it's a lot easier to just get the message across with I'm very economically left and libertarian leaning.
Wait. What are you on about, Tim?
Yeah, see.
Oh, he was explaining why it would take too long to say what he could have said in the length of time that he said. How long it would
shut
take.
up, I said 5 hours. I said 5 hours, I gave you 30 seconds. Calm down.
It makes sense, though, exactly what you were saying. It makes sense. And it's easier I think it's easier for most humans to compartmentalize, right? What ideology they are. That's why the vast majority of people who vote and think that they're politically active enough just identify as either Republican or Democrat. It's just much easier that way than delving into actual nuanced political ideology.
I mean, I'm a registered Democrat, but I still consider myself an independent, personally.
As long as you're not registered.
Right, yeah. If the Republican Party completely changed face, like just 180'd, and I suddenly agreed with them, yeah, I'd probably join the Republican Party if they actually were doing those things and not just paying lip service. And because with the current members of the Republican Party, there's no way in hell that they would ever do anything economically left.
Or maybe if they went back to the initial republicanism that they started with, so abolitionism and that sort of thing.
It's not just abolitionism. That's the thing, and I believe that democracy is a little bit more free than republics are, and I prefer the democratic model, and I know that we're a democratic republic. I'd kind of get rid of the republic part. I don't really see the point in that.
We're not really a democratic republic either, but
it's hard. Constitutional democratic republic.
we are a federal constitutional presidential republic.
Jesus fucking Christ!
That's what we are.
See, I pay attention to this shit all the time, and I can't even keep this all in my brain. How is everybody? How is everybody in the U.S. supposed to know all this stuff? You know?
Pseudo-economic compound cyanogen.
We're also technically a federation.
Are we?
Yes, because we have a federal body, and a federation is made up of smaller states that have certain level of autonomy. So.
And additionally, we're also an empire.
Independence.
Well, that's obvious.
We span past our original borders.
Like a group of states with a central government, but independence in internal affairs. I mean, kinda, yeah, I suppose.
And the only bout of democracy that we really have is at the local level. We don't really have democracy at all at the federal level. And the closest we get to it is actual republicanism, which is us electing members of the Congress in order to represent us. But even that, they kind of turn it into more of an oligarchy.
Yeah, it turns into an oligarchy with a smattering of nepotism here and there.
Nummies.
Good.
And that's something that I really can't stand is nepotism. I cannot stand it. Same. I cannot stand it. You do not have any inborn virtue by sake of being born to a certain person. I'm sorry, you don't. You're just like everybody else, and you ought to be just like everybody else, and you ought to be treated just like everybody else, which is fair and equal, but you should still be treated like everybody else.
Those damn Neppets. Down with the Neppets.
Neppets.
The Neppets.
Oh, that's getting a little
so, Dark Sage, you say you have a interesting question for us. I would like to know what that question is. So, if you could throw that up in the chat, I will take a look at it and read it out loud, if I can, of course.
Oh yeah, I want to kind of mention to our viewers that we do take questions, obviously, throughout the program. Anytime you guys have questions, I think it's great. I'm a personal strong supporter of answering people's questions because
it's a way to increase viewership.
Well, it's not just that. I like people. If people have genuine questions, I'd like to answer their questions because maybe I know something they don't. Maybe they know something I don't. You know.
And it totally pads the runtime. So I mean,
whatever. I don't need to pad the runtime.
You were saying that you were.
I don't know. Our Soros execs have said that we have to pad the runtime. Us leftists here are, bought by, the CEO of Antifa, which is Soros.
I'm missing my big bucks. Apparently, I'm missing my Soros bucks. So.
Speaking of our next major topic that we are going to shift to is Chinese food.
Oh,
actually, yes. Have you guys had?
We can talk about Chinese food, whatever.
Well, have you guys had shrimp and lobster sauce? It's delicious.
No,
I think Ming's is the only place I like out here.
Well, yeah.
Ming's is like I haven't had their actual Chinese food. I've had their sushi.
That's the problem with Ming's right there. They used to actually be pretty decent with their Chinese, and then they switched to this hybrid Chinese/sushi model. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but in my opinion, anytime a Chinese place incorporates sushi, they lose all decent flavorness in their Chinese food, and everything kind of just goes to shit.
Well, I think that's true in some respects.
Yeah.
I don't like sushi, so you can just keep your sushi away from.
I prefer sushi, but I prefer if I want sushi, I go to a sushi bar. If I want Chinese food, I go to a Chinese restaurant. Stop mixing the two. It doesn't make any sense. To me, that's almost Orientalist in a sense. Like these are two very separate things, and they have to try to mix it together as if the American people really want it, and apparently they do, and that's gross.
Hey, We eat the egg roll and the fortune cookie, and those are American inventions. They were made for white people.
I didn't realize this. And I'm not sure if you're still watching Dark Sage, but Dark Sage first came into our chat on the 1st of November. So Dark Sage has been around for a while.
Right on.
Thank you.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Did you just assume Dark Sage's gender?
Did I gender something? Or did somebody else gender something?
You.
I did? Okay. What
You're like,
then,
thanks, man.
okay, oh well, all right. Whatever.
Kidding.
They.
My favorite Chinese place in town is Lily's Chinese Bistro. I think they're the best.
I liked Lily's. How'd you guys feel about Panda Kitchen?
I used to love Panda Kitchen. I don't hate him now. I just prefer Lily's.
Yeah.
I just went there and I was not impressed. I mean, I had their Kung, what was it? The I had something.
Kung Pao?
No, not Kung Pao. No. I had
Kung
the
Fu?
chicken chow mein. But if you can't do chicken chow mein, you shouldn't be open.
You don't think that Panda Kitchen does chicken chow mein well?
I don't think they do it any better than anybody else anywhere else.
Pretty basic, right?
Yeah, completely.
That's why you need to get the shrimp and lobster sauce, which is essentially a soup.
I used to like Ming's, but I noticed that Pho Kitchen is similar. Their chicken chow mein is decent. The rest of their food is subpar. It has a metallic freeze-dried taste to it. It's just not good.
A metallic freeze-dried taste.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about.
And I would really wish they would put MSG back into Chinese food because it tasted great. There was nothing wrong with it, and it really was just the wrong thing to do.
Dark Sage, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, we didn't receive anything.
I didn't get your question in the comments. Can you or in the chat? Can you please copy and paste that so that I can read it?
The best chow mein that I've ever had in my life was this restaurant in the town that I grew up in called New China. It's the most unique type of chicken chow mein I've ever had in my life. And nobody has ever come close to it, not in any other Chinese restaurant that I've ever been to. It's so aggravating and sad to me because a good chow mein is really important for Chinese meals. It's just
way to tell me about a restaurant I can never get to. Well, fine. I'm going to tell you about the best Italian food I've ever had. It was at Sammy's Pizza in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Way to never go to that place. So, by the way, did someone mention last time? Last show.
Hold on, someone mentioned it, asked if we like Stranger Things. Yeah, on the YouTube chat.
Just having a conversation about this with this idiot on Facebook who's obsessed with the show.
Maybe he's trolling you.
On YouTube.
Well, how does everyone think about Stranger Things?
I mean, I actually liked the first 2 seasons. I think we're up to we're only up to number 3, right? And I didn't particularly like number 3 too much, but I did like number 1 and 2.
I got about halfway through the second season before I stopped watching.
I've never watched it.
I liked the first season. I thought it was decent, but I kind of I got bored of it after.
Oh, the first season was fantastic. It was
fantastic, yeah, but I don't know. The second season didn't sound that appealing, and I never really went back to watch anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't that great. I really wish
it's definitely not as good as the first season. The first season was obviously the best, and that happens with a lot of shows. But I think that it holds up. Like, it is pretty decent. So Dark Sage is starting to post his or her question in chat. It's going to be fairly long. I voted for President Trump in 2016 for economic reasons. I also was a very outspoken critic of his on many occasions. I do not agree with his stances on a variety of issues, and when I felt he had something wrong, I immediately let him know. As a lifelong Democrat, however, I was very disturbed by how I was treated, and that's all I've gotten so far. So I'll wait for Dark Sage to get the rest to us there.
Sure.
Butter Toast, did the viewer on YouTube have something?
They just asked about they keep talking about Stranger Things.
What do you mean keep talking? Like, have they said anything else about it? This is a political show. We don't really care about Stranger Things.
They just said all three are the best
thing ever. Stranger Things
so.
is set in the 80s, and there's a lot of stuff to talk
It's
about.
Oh, we want to start talking about Maggie Thatcher. I'd love to talk about Margaret Thatcher.
See,
oh, yeah.
Red
Scare, Communist Russia. Ooh, Rocky.
Yeah, but they did have that. They did have the dark, the Red Scare thing going on in Stranger Things.
Yeah, totally.
So it was as a lifelong Democrat. However, I feel I was as a lifelong Democrat. However, I was very disturbed by how I was treated. I was labeled as a Nazi, racist, sexist, and a variety of other things when I was someone who had a legitimate reason to vote for a candidate. For the record, I support all views and ideas. If you back Biden, that is fine. If you back Clinton, that is fine. You support all views and ideas? My question is, as someone who is an outspoken critic at times of President Trump, who voted for him for a different reason than most, my party wants unity, but how can they reach out to someone who was unfairly treated and labeled despite me being someone who stood against for most of what Trump stood for?
So what did you stand up against Trump for? Did you stand against the concentration camps along the border? Did you stand against the dog whistling? Did you stand against the tax code that was going to that will be affecting the middle and lower classes disproportionately after 7 years? I mean, so like what
the end of DACA.
Yeah, so what exactly drove you to vote for Trump is my question, and and furthermore, what policies were you speaking against?
And what policies were you speaking? Well, I mean, if we're going to go this route, then I'd also like to ask, what policies are you speaking for? Because we're talking about an economic a situation that is the worst that we've ever seen in history right now.
Well, it's also kind of due to the pandemic, and while the response from government
a pandemic that we think could have been stopped, or at least could have been arrested, or at least could have started.
It could have been stopped by
that our government didn't do an absolutely horrible job.
I'm saying that the president. What I'm doing is I'm arguing that the president has not been able to keep up with his side of the bargain, and we're talking about an economic situation. If you're going to defend the fact that his economic situation wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for COVID, I'm going to tell you that first of all, the tariffs would have made it bad. It would have made it terrible. And it probably was a lot worse because of the tariffs and because of the ways we were treating our farmers and our manufacturers, our importers, and our businesses. We were treating our own business. We were taxing our own businesses with these tariffs. So if you're talking about economic policies and boom in the economy, the only thing that Trump has done to bolster the economy is issue the first round of COVID relief, which just kept the economy from tanking, which it will do so when the COVID relief ends. So that's why we started this one talking about student loan debt relief and COVID relief, is because these are the economic issues right now. And these things wouldn't be economic issues if we had dealt with COVID as a crisis right away, like other countries did. And if we had then we would have had time to focus on other things before COVID came back for a second round. maybe we wouldn't even have had a vaccine by now. That's a possibility because it was streamlined and dangerously fast, by the way. We are going to get it soon, eventually, when manufacturing becomes available, probably within another year. Maybe longer, depending on which vaccines can go where.
So I think we're kind of going
hold
on a
on,
tangent.
Hold on, just 1 second, because I feel like we're not really answering Dark Sage's question.
Well,
and I want to reiterate what Dark Sage's question is, and then I'm going to hand it over to Aaron because he did call dibs.
Okay, let me finish my.
Okay,
my
I thought you were finished. My apologies.
Okay, that's no. I was right in the middle of the. I was right at the climax. Okay, so I hate when this happens. So yeah, we're talking about a president who has not delivered on economic issues, who has not delivered on a wall, who didn't deliver on all of immigration reform. He made it worse. He started sterilizing women at the border. He committed war crimes against people to try and serve these things. So what you saw was action towards a goal in such a horrific, monstrous way that you were satisfied that he was at least trying to do what he promised. And that was what you were satisfied with, when what he was doing was war crimes, and what he was doing was stuffing his pockets with your money while he was on his way out the door, and stuffing his friends' pockets with your money while he was on his way out the door. There is no economic responsibility. The only thing you're voting for is his statement, "I am a businessman," because he hasn't represented it in any way as president or outside of the presidency. And I cannot be compassionate or empathetic.
I mean, speaking of which, Dark Sage had another comment, but Aaron.
But Aaron,
would you like me to repeat the question for you?
Yeah, could you just for the sake of
as someone who was an outspoken critic at times of President Trump, who voted for him for a different reason than most, my party wants unity, but how can they reach out to someone who is unfairly treated and labeled, despite me being someone who stood up against most of what Trump stood for?
Now, am I to understand that Dark Sage voted for Donald Trump
in 2016?
In 2016, and the problem is that apparently Dark Sage had experienced some vitriol in response to that, right?
Clearly, it does appear that way. That once Dark Sage voted for Trump and became a Trump voter, they became lambasted. And we're having some problems.
Number one, I would counter that with a question kind of similar to what both Anthony and Butter Toast alluded to earlier, and that was, what were the reasons why Donald Trump seemed appealing enough for you to vote for him? You know, what were those hardcore reasons? Was it because you wanted to vote against Hillary Clinton, or the conventional neoliberal continuation that we saw throughout the Obama administration, or were there things about Donald Trump that you liked?
Okay, so let me if I can answer that, because Dark Sage had that comment, and I'm going to give you this with context now. When Charlottesville happened, I let him know I was opposed to what he said. The way he handled that was all wrong. I'm not a wall person. That's a garbage idea, but I do support some common sense immigration laws, and keeping people locked up is also wrong. I stood with him on economics, being a businessman, albeit not the best. I felt he could handle the economy better than Clinton at the time. I do not support racism in any way. What he did to divide, well, we're not really talking about racism right now. So I'll get to that comment in a second, Dark Sage. But I'll let Aaron hit you with the answer to that.
I think the reason why Dark Sage brought that up is because Dark Sage is aware that a lot of fervent supporters of Donald Trump do happen to be racists, and that he does share racist sentiment and opinions and stuff. I think, okay, so second of all, kind of going back to what I was saying, I think that if this question is more so about why return to voting for Democratic or different types of candidates, or candidates that you had voted for previously, my response to that would simply be, why would you not vote for a candidate based on your conscience and instead vote for a candidate based on what other people are saying. And what I mean by that is, it kind of sounds to me like Dark Sage is a little bit pushed away from either the Democratic Party or other alternative parties simply because of the type of response that they got after voting for Donald Trump. And in my opinion, that's a terrible reason to not vote for candidates of that political party that you believed in, because it means that you're throwing your beliefs away. Now, I'm glad you added context to it. You said that you actually liked the Donald Trump because he had quote unquote common sense, immigration policies and whatnot. But I would challenge you again with another question. What exactly are the common sense policies you're referring to? His biggest campaign promise, and the only thing he really seemed to work on throughout his presidency, was building a wall, building a wall, building a wall. And I'm not even sure what that accomplished. I'm not even sure if the wall was even accomplished. Is it even finished? It probably isn't. So, I mean, I don't understand what common sense immigration policies he had. That aside,
it is interesting. I think that really speaks to the hatred that a lot of people had for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, Trump's economic policies were terrible. He said he was going to tax incoming transports, and instead he tariffed, which is he taxed people who bought incoming stuff. So he taxed Americans, and that was something that you guys were supposed to be against, and
really bad.
It was such a hypocrisy that I couldn't understand why any Republican voted for Donald Trump.
And guess who it hurt the most? It wasn't just, I mean, specifically it was American workers. Think about it. The reason Donald Trump won the 2016 election was because he was able to capture a certain percentage of the blue-collar, good old American worker, right? That's what the Democratic Party kind of lost, which they had, for the past 50 years previous or longer. But these tariffs specifically hurt regular working-class Americans because now everything else rose in terms of prices. Meanwhile, their wages are stagnant, and I still have yet to see any kind of meaningful wage increase that existed under the Trump administration. I hear Trump supporters telling me all the time, well, our wages are better, our taxes are lower. What are you talking about? Taxes got lowered for the rich. Wages
average of $2,000 per family or something like that, which is just not true. The vast majority of Americans got like maybe a 2% change.
And I would like to address what Dark Sage has said after this. I do not support racism in any way. What he did to divide was wrong, and I always called it out and always will. Supporting someone on economic issues, even if others disagree, is not bad, but because I took that route and supported him at the time for that, I was labeled a Nazi, racist, sexist, and other things simply because I voted for a person based on economics, which is, in my opinion, wrong. I did not say his immigration, or this is the next comment. I did not say his immigration. Sorry, looking at the comment, I said common sense immigration. I mean, but that's what we said. We were talking about common sense immigration, but we were like, where is the common sense immigration law coming from the Trump campaign? That's kind of what we were asking.
And if you vote
not Trump's in particular. Okay, not sure if you guys thought I supported his immigration. If that was unclear, I should have wrote it better. Okay,
right. Okay.
So if I may, now, it's a shame that that you were called racist and a Nazi and all that. It's a shame, and it's very unfortunate because it doesn't seem like you deserve it, right? At the same point in time, we do have to recognize that a large swath of Trump's base is racist, are white supremacists, are these not so great things, sexists,
it's like that South Park episode.
People will always ascribe what they think of a particular group to anybody that fits into that group. And you were a Trump voter, so you then were easily labeled as racist or a Nazi or whatever. Even if it's wrong, you were labeled that way, just like I am on the left, right? I'm a socialist, right? And if people call me Antifa and think of me as a terrorist, that's the same kind of thing that you're looking at. Like, I'm only trying to look out for people, the working class best interests in America. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to make sure that fascism isn't exactly, in power if I can help it. Um, and I have been called many things, and a lot of things have been thrown my way for those views, even though they're not bigoted views, really. It's just I'm anti-white supremacy, I'm anti-fascism, I'm pro-democracy, like whatever, pro-socialism, anti-capitalist, whatever. But I could still be called a terrorist. I mean, I was speaking with my doctor just the other day, and my doctor, knowing where I lived, is a very, very right-leaning area, um, said, "Be careful not to get killed," and with sincerity in her voice. And that's something that's really scary for a lot of people on the left, is like, if I go out with an Antifa flag or I go out wearing red and black, am I going to get killed by some psycho with a gun?
Or if somebody just finds out who you are, what you do, who you love, how
or
you
that too, and it's scary for us as well. And the reason why I would, bring you back into the fold, right? The reason why I want unity.
We're not scared of people yelling at us and calling us names. We're scared of people coming at us with guns and taking our lives.
Well, we're mostly scared of that, yeah.
So,
but when it comes
call me a Nazi all you want.
When it comes to party unity, you don't have to like the Democrats or like the people in power in order to say I ascribe more with their values than I do the other ones, right? And it seems to me like you ascribe most of your values from, your lifelong Democratic support, and you have most of your values from that, but your economic values might be to the right. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but you say, based on Trump, right, for your economics. So I'm going to say they're to the right. They're very pro-capitalist, sure. And I would ask that you don't hold it against the liberals or the left for saying that, because we are genuinely afraid of Nazis being a thing in the U.S. Like, we're generally afraid of that. I am.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm getting looks from you guys, because I feel like I am saying what I need to say. Maybe I'm not saying it the right way, but
okay. So I met a guy in Carson City. His name was John Paul, right? He was a nice guy, skinny, right? Thought he was a decent fellow. Okay, he was a musician. I talked to him about possibly joining a band. I introduced him to my boss. Got him a job where I worked. He went to Reno and he stabbed somebody. Tried to rape a girl. Now, he has since tried to reconnect with me on Facebook, and I say no. Now, the fact that I didn't know that he was a shithole of a person doesn't make me wrong for having been his friend or vouched for him. Just the same way as voting for Donald Trump does not make you a bad person if you voted for him because of his economics. But if you knowingly voted for somebody who is a racist and a psychopath, and you voted for them anyway, then that's your responsibility. So now if I were to say, if I were to pick up the phone and say, John Paul, yeah, let's go be pals again. Or if I said to this fellow named Eddie, who told me a story about knocking 4 front teeth out of his girlfriend, if I was still friends with him too, that would be on me. So yeah, if you're aware that Trump is a shit person and a terrible liar and an awful racist, and you continue to support him because of economics, then that's on you. And you have to grapple with that on your own.
I can't help but agree, and that very succinctly put into words what I was trying to say. And thank you, Anthony. Was indeed that we all do make mistakes, and if you think a particular candidate is going to be worth your vote, and then something horrible happens with that candidate, it's not it's not entirely up to you that person did what they did. But once again, if you voted for him again, knowing what he has done and what he will continue to do, then at that point I would definitely draw a line and be like, yeah, you know what? No. So I agree with Anthony, and that's my stance on it. I'm right there with Anthony on that.
Yeah, my thing is, this whole idea that Trump was, a good businessman, therefore, he should be able to run this country because I've worked in business and I've worked with people who've had degrees in businesses. That doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. I mean, yeah, that's great and all. But this country isn't a business. It's a country. It's beholden to a complete different set of policies, norms, systems that have existed way longer than the concept of a business for capital profit.
Well,
no, that's true. That's true.
It is true, but to narrow it down just a little bit more simplistically, we want someone who can govern, not somebody who could be a CEO. That's not what we need in a country. There's a big difference between governing and then operating a fucking corporation. It's just not, the two are not one and the same.
His first week in office, he was talking about selling states, selling principalities and buying countries. I mean, he was clearly not ready for this job.
Yeah, not in the slightest. And I think that I don't think he even thought he was going to win. And then, or I don't think he even thought he was going to get close. And then he ended up winning.
Yeah, I think it was all for branding. In fact, that's the only thing that kept Trump from outright saying that Biden didn't win. This was fraud. Is someone told him that it might ruin his branding, his image.
So Dark Sage just explained some of the things. Said that they didn't his economics didn't end up the way that, or were working out the way that they wanted, or the tax code, and the tax cut wasn't worth it in their opinion. And at the time, with my experience, with the experiences I had with business people, and from what I saw with them, I felt that Trump could handle the economy well, and that no, I voted for Howie Hawkins in 2020. And we can debate whether or not you should have voted for Howie. Whatever. Honestly, I'm very happy that you just didn't vote for Trump again. I'm happy about that, because that shows to me that you're somebody who cares. And voting for Howie, right? I wanted to vote for Howie at a certain point during this whole election thing. I didn't, but I wanted to vote for Howie because that's where my God, I can't. What's
your ethics, your morals?
Yeah, that's where my morals were, and my morals, my values are. It was more plainly stated in the Green Party's 2020 statement, and so I'm right there with you. And as far as I'm concerned, you're on our side. We're together. We're working together.
Yeah.
We're not enemies in this in any way, shape, or form, even politically.
We were looking we were all looking for options in 2016.
Yeah. And so I'm not really that upset with the people who voted. Well, some of them I am, of course, but I'm not really upset with all of the people who voted for Trump in 2016 because not everybody knew the consequences of it. Not everybody knew the consequences that might lead, and if you didn't like the consequences, then more than likely you're probably, my kind of person, and we're probably going to get along. At least when it comes to policy. Dark Sage, what bothers me though was how, for example, when I called him out after Charlottesville, I had people call me names. I had people who wanted to fight me. I was burned at the stake when I agreed with those people, that what he said that day was all wrong and he needed to do more than what he was doing.
So I think maybe he's being a little general in his response. So I guess what would help is like, what exactly did you say? How did you defend?
It's like, so you called him out in Charlottesville, and you had people calling you names. Were these people on the left, on the right? What did you say that people were? Because if you're calling him out and then like condemning his actions, then I don't see why the left would gang up on you. So I am, or the Democratic base would gang up on you.
You're saying I didn't like what he said in Charlottesville, but I still voted for him, and I'm glad I did.
I mean, something like that might ruffle some feathers. Something
Anthony,
like that
it looks like someone wants to ask you a question specifically. Ooh. On the YouTube chat. Yeah, look at that.
You got some fans, Anthony.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not a fan.
Oh.
Just to preface, they believe that you're not exactly bright and you don't really understand economics. So we will see.
Okay, duly noted.
Yeah, I just.
Where's the question?
That's what we're waiting on.
Oh, so he or she just typed in, Anthony is dumb. Hold on 1 second. Here's my question.
Not exactly like that. you can look at the chat logs. Okay.
I'll go to YouTube. Sure.
Oh yeah. So the question is, how do you feel about the socioeconomic status of African Americans in the purview of modern day electoral politics in the relation with, No, it's another fucking Stranger Things question. I'm blocking this fucking person.
Oh, okay. It was just a long... Okay, well, I'll still answer the question. So you want me to explain how socioeconomics affects black voting? Well, let me put it this way. During the last election, more polling places were shut down in black neighborhoods for one reason or another than in any other place. In Texas, was one of the worst offenders. Your suburbia can fight back. Your suburbia can fight back because your suburbia has money. They have time on their hands. They have time to go out there and they have time to fight. They have time to write letters to their legislature. But you have these people who there's something I wanted to mention earlier, but I think now's the right time. There was a fellow who discussed something called bootstrap economics, and I'm not talking about lifting yourself up by your bootstraps or anything like that. But what I'm talking about is it's the Boots philosophy of economics, not bootstrap.
Okay, I'm unfamiliar with that one.
The boot. So the idea is that if you are a poor person and you spend $20 on a pair of shoes, your pair of shoes is going to wear out in a few months, maybe a year. If you're a wealthy person and you buy a brand new pair of boots, you may spend $2,000 on that pair of boots, but they will last you for 20 years.
So it's compound. It's compound because with the cheap boots, you have to buy new boots every year or whatever.
Yeah,
And so you're spending $20,
so
$20, $20, $20, $20, whereas you spend
every right,
$200 on boots and have it for 10 years.
right,
You're
exactly.
saving a bunch of money that way. So people that
So
start off with a higher amount of money
in
are
essence,
better off in the
it
long
was a
run.
description of how economics burdens the poor, how economics makes it harder for the average person to the mode at which we operate makes capitalism makes it very difficult for the person to rise from a lower standing to a higher standing than it does for a person to rise from a higher standing to an even higher standing than theirs, than their own, because the exponential difficulty of that cheap shoe compared to the the pricier stuff, the more the more expensive, better quality stuff is such a leap. It's such a long height, but once you get there, it becomes easier and easier to climb. Once you get to a certain point, uh, some people call it. Some people talk about the suburban influence. Like, for instance, Bill Gates' family. His father was a lawyer. He made a lot of money. He was a multimillionaire. He was not Bill Gates wealthy, but nobody was Bill Gates wealthy until Bill Gates was Bill Gates wealthy. So,
Pretty much.
so right. So it was from that that few $1 million that he inherited from his father that he was able to do with whatever he wanted and build this company that no one else could have built. And Gates is not a brilliant man. He's above average intelligence. He scores above average in an IQ test. Steve Jobs is smarter than he is, but
Well,
still
Steve Jobs is dead.
but still not a genius. Well, right.
He wasn't smart enough to avoid that Apple diet. Am I right?
Yeah, neither was Hawking, but we still celebrate him.
Ooh, that's a harsh comparison.
He's also dead.
I would not anywhere near. I would not go even remotely close to.
Stephen Hawking was a cherished
comparing
member
Stephen
of
Hawking.
academia and science, whereas Steve Jobs was just another corporatist asshole.
Right. Well, I was comparing intelligence, and I was talking about Steve Jobs, and then I mentioned that we still celebrate Stephen Hawking, who in his personal life was no better or worse than Steve Jobs or Bill Gates.
What?
In his personal,
yeah, what?
Yeah, he cheated on his wife with his nurse. Okay, let's not really. How? Sexually? Okay. Anyway, we this is a well-known fact. The whole movie, whatever that piece of crap. Well, it was actually a decent movie. I can't remember the name of it, but the Stephen Hawking movie, it discussed his whole infidelity thing. So anyway, yeah, and Jobs was kind of an asshole, and Gates was kind of an asshole to Steve Wozniak and such. But what my point was is that these guys had a platform from which to start on, and they were above average intelligence, and they were able to succeed. So that's the way I see it, is that the problem with the socioeconomics of blacks in this country, voting wise and otherwise, is that it becomes impossible if you cannot give the framework for a few to start on. You can't build that. You can't start with that $1 million. Somebody doesn't have a chance to get that shot. That's why I believe in a living wage, and I have this radical idea that maybe we shouldn't inherit anything. maybe we as people, as human beings, should all have the same starting platform as everybody else.
That's not radical. Marx and Engels had developed a plan for that.
No,
it's radical compared to America's politics. At least
America's I still believe in
politics.
capitalism. I'm not saying that. I still believe in capitalism. I believe in a living wage.
That's a pretty hot take, Anthony. You believe in capitalism?
I have always believed in a starting wage. Yes, I believe that capitalism has its place in a hybrid economic system with socialism.
I think that as a transitionary period, sure.
Is this something you guys disagree with me on? Oh, this is fun. Okay.
Yeah. No, I completely I disagree that that's like the end point.
Okay. I believe that we have a system currently that where your survival is dependent on your production, and I want a system in which your survival is guaranteed, and your production
everybody according to his need, or everything according to one's needs.
No. Again, let me go back. Okay, so again, life would be guaranteed. So you would, yes, have some things guaranteed: power, electricity, a living wage, groceries, food, not to starve or die, not to and have medical care, etc., things like that.
Would that not be to his need?
Sure,
according to his need.
Sure, but then you can go out and get a job and get more, and buy that TV set, and get that nice furniture, and have.
See, this is why I don't like commodities. That's why I disagree with capitalists. Because commodities are just, listen, it's bullshit, folks.
Well, that's the thing, is that goods are not theoretical. Goods are not a theoretical thing. Goods have an economic purpose. They are tangible. They exist.
They have a value because we placed a value on them.
No. They have a value because they have a function. For instance, right now, I'm sitting on a fucking mattress on the floor.
You could be sitting on a Fabergé egg for all I fucking care.
I'm not done. You will care in a second. I don't have a frame. I don't have a mattress. I don't have a box spring. It's one of the most uncomfortable places to sleep and sit that you possibly can have. It's not a necessity that I have something better than that. It's a luxury that I have something better than that. But that's the problem, is that when you have a system that's designed to each to their needs, you then have to decide what everybody's needs are. And that becomes a problem when you start saying, well, maybe everybody's needs is a single potato a day because that's all it requires to survive.
Oh my God. No, get it. No.
I mean,
no. I'm not gonna tolerate this line of reasoning, and I'm gonna disagree with you here.
What? Why? Because it's a historical truth. It's something that has happened. There have been bread lines, and there have been famines in places where communism, not socialism, have been.
Wait, hold on. What? Hold on. 1 second. Okay, so.
No, this is fun. I'm having a good time. I really am.
Hold on 1 second. I apologize.
Are you shushing Hillary Clinton out of your bedroom?
He wants the Hillary. He wants her slimy wimey.
Don't you show up in my podcast?
That's not what
I want the power.
Why would you allow Hillary Clinton to join you in the podcast?
So, my question, Anthony, is, if it's not according to people's needs, right, and things are literally just, it's more luxurious than the other thing, then wouldn't you be okay sleeping on a dirt floor in a cave? Like, isn't that okay? Like, wouldn't you be okay if the government just provided you a tiny little cave to sleep in? You okay with that?
No, that's why
you think do you think that meets a normal standard of living for any human being currently on the face of the planet in a country as wealthy as ours?
That's interesting, and I appreciate that because you just threw a loaded question at me, and I think it's kind of funny that you did. So, do you hate puppies? So here's where I'm coming from. The ideal situation of this country is that there is a standard living situation that we can use as an example. And we are capable. We did talk about in the last podcast how we are perfectly capable of housing everybody in this country. We talked about that already. Okay. We also have talked about how some countries have a system of a living wage or are coming into a system of a living wage, so it is not out of reach for the world's wealthiest country to have something like that. It's also not. You haven't argued against the other portion, which is the question of whether we should have a simultaneous capitalist system alongside it, in which people can earn wages and produce goods by volunteering their services to work. I mean, by getting a job, feeling no requirement to get a job, but everybody wants to do something. Everybody wants to have more. Nobody wants to be idle. And the idea that we could just go to college if we wanted to gives us the freedom to say, no, I want to go get a job instead, and be satisfied with the fact that we had the opportunity to go to college.
And you can do that. I'm not arguing against that. I'm not arguing against work as a concept. I'm arguing against
where did this cave and dirt floor thing come from? Because I'm not really.
Well, you said one potato, didn't you? So wasn't that a loaded question?
No, that was a joke. That was a joke about.
You don't like it, do you?
It's actually a comparison. I was saying that we can afford, as a capitalist country, as a country that has the ability to produce and has workers and members of society who pride themselves on producing for this country, on making extra things and earning. We have that basis already in this country. We could conceivably lose track of exactly what I was saying. So let me follow. We could have a system in which we are capable of competing while also allowing the majority of society to have the freedom to not work. Because
but now you're advocating for for society to have the ability to just not work.
Well, yes, and yeah, exactly. Okay, and that standard of living should increase based on the production of that society, with the opportunity to earn more, but a guaranteed wage. And I'm not talking about, again, a dirt floor and a potato like Soviet Russia. I'm talking about people having the ability to. Right.
Okay.
So, okay. On that note, we are going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about Biden's cabinet picks, everybody's favorite topic. So this is going to be happy, and yes, we can continue a little bit about socialism and capitalism.
Oh man,
break, guys.
Yeah, we'll take a 15-minute break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Maybe
We're back,
Aaron
except
fell
for
in the
Aaron.
toilet.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, there he is.
There
He left the toilet.
It took a lot to get out.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, you wanted to talk about Joe Biden's cabinet picks?
Oh yeah, we've got that going on. A lot of
Well,
women.
did we not want to finish our discussion about economics?
Oh, I could
Fuck
finish.
him particularly.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to do that.
That wasn't that off the charts or off the record.
No.
No,
that
it
was
recorded on both my end and on Jay's
that was
end.
live.
Yeah,
no. We muted the mic and the feed once we went on our 15-minute break.
According to at least CNN, as of that's the 24th. That's a little outdated.
Yeah, I got one that's a day old.
The Guardian.
CNN.
Oh, CNN.
Ooh.
Yeah. One day ago, I'll copy and send it to you. It hasn't loaded fully for me yet. So.
Anthony Blinken.
Anthony.
Janet Yellen. John Kerry.
Oh yeah, John Kerry was a big deal.
Alejandro
I didn't
Mayorkas.
Americas.
Not sure. Anyway, you seemed like you wanted to start us off there, Aaron. So you have open mic.
Yeah, sure. I just thought that it'd be kind of cool to discuss some of the picks. I know that we could start with probably the top position on the cabinet, which would technically be the Secretary of State, so that'd be Anthony Blinken. I don't have much of an opinion on him, other than it seems like a lot of the Biden picks so far have been like as if he's aiming obviously for more stability within the government, and there's no like big surprises or any kind of push towards a progressive token or a Republican token or anything like that.
Linda Thomas Greenfield as UN ambassador, that wasn't a surprise to you?
I'm not familiar with who Thomas Greenfield is.
Oh, okay. It's current U.S. ambassador pick, Linda Thomas Greenfield.
That seems to be a recurring theme with Joe Biden's cabinet picks. I don't know who that is. That seems to be a recurring theme. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing, they're not his family members.
She was Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs in the United States, Department of State's Bureau of African Affairs from 2013 to 2017. So she has international experience. She worked for the president. So, I mean, he's been picking people who are so qualified that they're not going to need too much preparation to get ready for the job, and that's probably the aim right now, since nobody's.
And depending on whether he or Kamala Harris is the one that's going to be president for the majority of his term, it depends. Well, we don't know what will happen. I mean, the dude is old, and we're going through a pandemic right now. So we do have to keep an open mind that it is possible that we would have a Harris presidency. So I've kept that in mind while Joe Biden is making his picks. And he seems to be choosing, your fairly standard, government types. You know what I'm saying? He's not he's not really going outside of the box too much, and it's disappointing that he won't put anybody in the AOC, Bernie, Warren like thing. I hate grouping Warren in there as well, but like the more progressive side of things, it doesn't seem like he's really doing anything with that momentum on the left, and it's really upsetting. It's disappointing.
There's still no pick for
it's not surprising, but it's disappointing.
There's still no pick for Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Labor, Health and Human Services.
No, what about the big about Secretary of Defense?
I don't think we got that one either.
No, we don't have Secretary of Defense yet.
The two
we have
biggest...
Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor. He's experienced.
Oh, okay, so Alejandro Mayorkas, Biden's nominee to lead the Department of Homeland Security, is considered likely to roll back some of the Trump administration's cruelest immigration policies. This is according to The Guardian. Mayorkas was one of the original architects of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, and is considered a positive choice by advocates for immigration rights. But it is very unclear whether Mayorkas is committed to the equitable treatment of immigrants. When he previously served under the department, an Inspector General's report found that he had personally intervened to help rich people, including Hollywood producers, Vegas casino owners, and the former Democratic National Committee chair and Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. I don't know.
What's your source for this?
McAuliffe? It's The Guardian. I'll copy this and post it for you guys.
Okay, because I mean that's important information to know. It's kind of sucks, takes the wind out of this. But we don't have a trade representative or a small business administrator. I mean, these are all positions that are ripe for Sanders people. He may be waiting to put any Sanders people up because Biden doesn't want to incur the wrath of the Democrats right away, or he could be just not going. It could be that he's not going to do it at all. I mean, we are done being able. I
think the latter is more likely.
We are done being able.
It'd be nice for the former to exist, though.
Right. We are done being able to predict the pettiness of our president.
Pretty much.
I want to know. I saw a report actually while we were on break. I was talking with somebody, and they shared a story with me. Apparently, he's strongly considering Rahm Emanuel for transportation.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was just weeks ago that he was. Remember, I brought this up. He was talking about Eric Garcetti for transportation. Neither of which I understand. I don't understand those people as picks for transportation. Neither one of them have any kind of experience in transportation.
Well, as far as
he's a mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, mayor of Chicago versus the mayor of LA. I don't care if they were mayors. What specifically do they have in experience when it comes to transportation? Transportation's kind of a big deal. You know, we're talking about that working with commerce and interstate commerce and whatnot.
That's strange. It's likely to do with political leanings. Because Rahm Emanuel came into office on May 16th of 2011. So during the Obama administration.
Yeah, well, shortly after he left as Obama's chief of staff. He was Obama's first chief of staff. He was one of the guys who helped him get elected, and then he got elected mayor of Chicago once. Was it Bill Daley? Yeah, I think it was Bill Daley. Bill Daley was termed out or something like that. But anyway.
Well, he was succeeded by Lori Elaine Lightfoot.
Preceded by Lori Lightfoot?
Succeeded by Lori Lightfoot.
Lightfoot is the mayor right now. But
preceded by Richard M. Daley.
Yeah. Okay. Richard Daley.
Richard Michael Daley.
Anyway, but my point is that I don't understand. I still don't understand that as a choice for Secretary of Transportation. To me, it sounds more like it's a political favor more than anything else.
It certainly looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not. Rahm Emanuel was never in my opinion, an impressive congressman. He was never an impressive mayor. He was only mayor of Chicago for a few years, and he certainly wasn't an impressive chief of staff. The only thing about him that's remarkable is that he was reportedly rather intimidating as a congressman, because he would like corner fellow congressmen in like the bathroom stalls and stuff and weird shit. I don't know, but otherwise, I don't know. He doesn't strike me as somebody who has any experience specifically in transportation. And my question is what on earth does he see in Rahm Emanuel for that position?
Well, this is again, it's a float, and we don't know who leaked this float or if it's valid. We just
yeah. And I mean, that's the thing is that largely the picks are going to go unnoticed by most people. In fact, I'm sure most of the picks will go unnoticed by me unless they do something that you know, end up catching my eye, whether for good or for bad. Because I mean, to be frank, keeping an eye on 50 politicians who, you know, you didn't know about until this year for 4 more years, that's like keeping an eye on the important ones, like the Department of Homeland Security, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury. I mean, the Secretary of Education. I mean, those big ones. Agriculture.
Urban development is a big deal under the Democratic administrations.
I guess I care about more than I.
The top 2 that are the most important of any administration are state and defense. Those are the 2 that everybody pays attention to. They're the highest in the line of succession. And as far as I can tell, we don't have a choice for defense yet. So everything else kind of falls to the wayside. But here's the thing. This was another possibility. I don't remember where I read it. It might have even been one of the stories I heard on NPR. But apparently, folks within his inner circle are throwing around the consideration for Elizabeth Warren as chairwoman of the Fed.
Chairwoman of the what?
The Fed, the Federal Reserve.
Oh, the Federal Reserve. Okay.
Well, she is a mathy person.
Who again? And I very much apologize. What was her last name again?
Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Are you not hearing like the conversation?
No, you keep cutting in and out for me. I apologize.
Oh no, that's my fault. Then let me get closer. Yeah. So the thing about Liz Warren as chairperson of the Federal Reserve, number one, she does have a little bit of experience when it comes to finances, and specifically the Credit Protection Bureau. What was it that she started as
I
a
think so. Yeah, I think you're correct on that.
Yeah, I mean, so that kind of makes sense, but at the same time, the Federal Reserve is a little bit more than just consumer protection, right? There is a consumer protection agency. Maybe making her the head of that would make sense, but
maybe make Bernie the head of the consumer protection agency.
I feel like Bernie would be better suited in a
as
role
labor
that's more general as president. But anyway,
but I mean, do you think that like labor then? Because I feel like labor is pretty general. I mean,
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would all want Bernie Sanders for Secretary of Labor, but
that would be incredible. That would just be so outlandish.
I mean, like really, if Joe Biden goes and does the thing that Anthony said that he might do, which I doubt he'll do, but if he does it and like announces these picks like later in the game, and Bernie Sanders happens to be in a prominent position, you know, I'll take back a lot of the bad shit I said.
I would be prepped up to vote for him in the next 4 years. that would be all it would take for me is getting some Sanders Democrats firmly into power positions.
I want Sanders specifically, not just because he would be a fantastic pick, but also because, look, I'm sorry, the dude technically worked harder, in my opinion, than anybody else, especially out of the primary field, for Biden after the primaries were over.
Yeah.
There's like no doubt about that. I mean, he was also the person who, in my opinion, was stabbed in the back more than anybody else in the primaries.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't understand how Biden wouldn't know this. Like, this has to be on. I don't care if it's pissing off the Democratic Party or not.
I mean, Bernie campaigns very, very hard for Hillary Clinton. After that primary,
you might not want to have somebody so close to you that you know that reminds you of how guilty you are every day.
Well, I mean, he still has to. He still does have to deal with Congress, and Bernie is still in Congress for the time being. So,
yeah, being in a room with Congress will make anyone feel filthy.
I mean, the Senate, yeah, maybe a little more so than the House of Representatives, even though the House isn't that great either.
Have you folks ever been to a joint session of Congress?
Nope.
Aaron,
that look on your face said, of course you haven't. That look on your face was the, of course you haven't come to my boozy fucking political get-togethers.
There's nothing bougie about it. It's the people's house. It's where we go when we want to witness this stuff. This is very normal.
I have been to the state legislature and seen the legislature, but
everybody's done that. I'm talking about the U.S. Congress.
I have seen, aside from C-SPAN, no.
So you've never been there physically, in person?
Never in my life, but it is an overwhelming building from what I hear.
Like, let's say you go to a dinner, right? Like, a big donor dinner. Oh my God. Yeah, that actually does feel dirty. But if you have the opportunity to show up to like a joint session of Congress, or maybe not even a joint session, just a basic session of either the House or the Senate, or if you take a chance to walk around the Capitol, for example, you don't feel dirty. It's a weird, unrealistic feeling. Where you feel small, like you're just small and worthless, I think. But not in a bad way, but like
no, like where you're just a cog in well, like more in the sense of that famous quote, we're all just stardust. Yeah, sure, we're tiny grains and stuff, but that stuff sure is special.
It's true.
We're Americans. There's a lot of us. But that's what we are.
I mean,
it's nice to be Americans. It's okay to feel that way.
And here's one thing that I think a lot of people need to hear and a lot of people need to know. It's okay to feel ashamed of your country.
Yeah, it's totally okay. And it's still okay to be proud of.
And it's okay to be proud of your country at certain times as well. It's okay. It's okay to say, hey, we did a good thing, right? If we did a good thing. If we did a bad thing, then we did a bad thing,
But you can't, your morals reflect your country's morality. You can't be on your country's side no matter what bad.
Because then it's nationalism, and then you have an issue. So I agree with you there, yes.
That's why that whole America, fuck yeah thing, that doesn't make sense.
Like, I mean, even though even though Anthony kind of disagrees with us on this, I am proud that the state voted yes on the energy proposition this year. I'm proud that so many people came out and so many people voted yes for that.
What do you mean Anthony disagrees with us on this?
Oh, not Anthony. I meant Aaron. I'm so sorry.
What do you mean
Thank
Aaron
you.
disagrees with you on this?
You weren't sure whether or not to vote yes or no.
I voted for it.
You did
Well,
vote for it.
you ended up voting for it, but we had a whole conversation where we were all like talking about it. So
No.
at that point you were disagreeing.
Aaron might have been playing devil's advocate too, because we were trying to run a pretty
Well,
intense
I got caught face.
and maybe Aaron had a few doubts about it that he wanted to bring up during the show, and I understand that. But
Well,
no,
yeah,
when you
it's not an
presented
echo chamber.
to us, Aaron, you said outright that that's what you thought you were, So did we convince you, or was it just something you'd already decided ahead of time and you just were arguing?
Oh,
your point?
I don't think I convinced Aaron, not in the slightest.
No, I don't think I convinced Aaron. Someone else convinced Aaron, if he was convinced at all.
So no, I was already planning on voting for it, but you're partially correct when you said that I was playing devil's advocate. I wasn't necessarily playing devil's advocate. I was expressing the one concern I do have with that kind of a bill, and again, that is the off shifting of costs when it comes to switching over things like that. Of course, I'm going to vote for it. It's definitely going to be better for us in the future. I think something like that should have happened already decades ago, respectively. Being the most, in my opinion, the most prudent state for renewable energy in the entire country, especially when it comes to solar, it just makes sense. But I still had concerns about what this would mean for the average consumer who, going back to also the conversation we had just before we went on break, has to rely on a basic necessity in this day and age, like electricity and things like that. But of course I voted for it.
Well, it was excellent. It was an excellent discussion when we had it, and I'm glad you were able to recap pretty much the entire discussion in that paragraph. That was impressive. So yeah, that was.
I'd say Aaron is a skilled orator among us.
Yeah, well, no, it's a wonderful summation.
Anthony, are you drunk?
No, I'm high.
Oh my god! Okay, I was like,
I'm incredibly.
I mean, I can't judge because other people have drunk and also gotten high on this podcast. So
a few times.
Hey, stop calling me out like that.
Only sober person here.
I've seen you put down a couple of glasses of wine and get a little bit buzzed on the show.
That's why I'm saying don't call me out like that.
One sipped wine on this show. That has not happened.
I don't remember Anthony. I don't remember Aaron drinking alcohol for the most part.
Stop defending Aaron.
On my desk.
Are you sure you
that
have
coffee has vodka in it?
I do have Bailey's in my fridge, but no, it's not in my coffee right now.
At buttered toast, what'd you say?
I said it's hidden in the coffee.
Oh, it's hidden in the coffee.
Yeah,
I wish, but no, I can't. I'm
And
not
he's
gonna
putting it.
Drink like
He's putting it into the water supply, making us all drunk too.
It's hard to tell when you're contributing when we can't see you.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
once I fix the webcam issue.
He said he was having some difficulties.
Yeah, once I get, because I think this webcam caused my computer to blue screen. I think there's an issue with the driver. Yeah.
There, you give me this fucking thing.
Well, it's probably just an issue with Windows on my end. So I mean, if it's not blue screening on your end, then your driver's probably fine.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Right. So that's wonderful. End the podcast with computer problems. Woo! No, it's
Well, I started it with computer problems.
I think in summation,
Yeah.
we're very eagerly, but extremely cautiously looking forward to seeing who Joe Biden picks for his cabinet. And and proceeding with caution,
Right.
going into his presidency. And I still think that it's a long shot, but hell, if the Georgia runoff races go the Democrats' way, that could be really, really good. Because then the Senate would no longer have a majority for the Republicans. Yes.
Yes, I feel like we can say one thing that's particularly interesting is that no matter what, we're going to be watching Joe the whole time he's in office. We're going to be watching him.
Oh yeah, we're going to be watching him with the same intent that we were watching Donald Trump.
It was
Biden doesn't get a pass by not being Trump.
Every day without a news story is going to stress us out for a while.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because I'm going fucking insane. Okay, like there's not enough news because there was so much news for an entire year. There was so much news.
Too much news.
That I could barely keep up. But now that it's like a regular news cycle, I'm like news starved. I'm like, where is it? What's happening? What's going on? I feel like shit is going on in the background without me realizing it. And in reality, there's just not a whole lot going on.
Which I think is dangerous. And I think we were talking about this earlier when we were discussing the media, is that when suddenly this is going to be like a media-wise economic shift. A media crash, if you will, because without Donald Trump to pad all of the viewership to get the ratings that they've gotten this year, they're going to need Super Bowl daily events to make up for the loss of viewership they're going to get when this president is president.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going in cautiously optimistic, extremely cautiously optimistic. I don't have many. I don't know why I'm getting feedback. But I don't have many expectations going into a Joe Biden presidency. Because the last presidency was so bad, it kind of got rid of my expectations for the most part. But I do still, if he doesn't follow through with what he says he's going to do, at least half of the things he's going to do, then I'm going to be righteously pissed.
The only thing I'm not going to do is vote for Donald Trump if he runs against him.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah,
that's the only thing I'm definitely not going to do.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a Grover Cleveland rematch sort of deal, just because that's so historic and I think it's kind of fun. But no,
I don't think it's fun because it's playing with people's lives, and I've
had enough of fun.
Okay, no, fair point. You're right. That's absolutely true, and I definitely agree with that.
And I know where you're coming from on the fun thing. Like, I'm not accusing you of thinking that people suffering is fun, but for me, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, step on my balls a little bit.
Trump running before was historical too. It was this whole thing about a reality show star running for president, and then there was Hillary who was running for president, who was a woman. That was historic. But what are you pinching your face at me for?
You see, this is what he does when I'm talking too.
I know. This is what you always do, and we're gonna discuss it eventually. But yeah,
if somebody says something that I think is incorrect or invalid, I happen to show it through facial form. It's just the way I am, because it's better to do that than to interrupt out loud. You know?
Right. No, and you just interject with your face.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
You just say, "Hey, shut the fuck up" with your face, and
it's a true talent. My mother does it too.
So here's the thing. Number one, there was nothing historic about Donald Trump's candidacy in the sense that we've already had a Hollywood TV show actor become president. That was not historic. That wasn't a first-time thing.
He was also extraordinarily elderly.
Yeah.
But what was probably, I guess, historic, but it's not
Hey, can you get me
it's
another
not a
water,
big
please?
deal, at least not in my opinion, was somebody of his caliber and personality getting elected president. That was
Yes.
Why are you
kind of
playing this
historic.
again?
Yeah.
Being on
So-
TV or being known for being on TV,
You
who
forgot to
cares?
save?
This is the 21st century. Like we've now had
saved. I just
presidents who have been in that role before.
Ah,
Hillary Clinton being the first female to get the nomination and to be a
Okay.
major candidate. That's historic. I
all
agree
right.
with that.
Yeah,
I'm
we're-
not muted on my
We're
recording,
20,
so
40 years away from possibly electing a Vine star for all we
I
know.
should probably change that.
But fuck. But it's historic that Trump lost the popular vote twice, that he was impeached by the House during his one and only term.
Yep.
And all three of those things simultaneously are historic. So
As also a super pandemic during his term.
This is only the second president of my lifetime who's only gotten one term, and I'm loving it. This is great.
it's pretty rare. So
It is. Well, in this day and age, it's rare.
well, it's because people, it's just people don't like people make up their mind and then they make up their mind forever. And it's just like can you just open your mind to just some possibilities?
What I
Right?
don't understand is when people like farmers vote against their own self-interest, or people like blue-collar workers vote against
It's
their own
because
self-interest.
it's because they don't know the letter of the law as well as the legislators do. I mean, like they might know like how much they
It's
pay in
because they're
taxes.
convinced by the slogans, but somehow they they ignore the actions that happen time and time again, over and over again, when these legislators treat them like shit and ruin their lives. Basically, make it harder for them to own farms and make a living. Then when Democrats come in and make it easier for the farmers then vote against their self-interest again because their daddy was a Republican or their family was Republican. It's just, I just don't understand why people vote against their self-interest in that sort of way when you're actually starving because you voted for a Republican.
I know, even in other types of self-interest, like lots of a much more decent portion of the Latino population voted for Trump this time around.
Well, you got to be very distinct when you're talking about the Latino population. And there's a huge chunk of the Latino population that is not necessarily friendly to each other. Cubans don't believe that anyone else should be allowed into the United States aside from Cubans who are already in the United States. So when you talk about Hispanics who voted for Trump, a lot of them voted for Trump based on his immigration policies and his idea and their idea that keeping more people out was going to save their job.
I mean, but at the same point in time, didn't more Latino people of non-Cuban origin vote for Donald Trump this time around as well?
More
Not a
people,
not a majority, but
No,
more
no,
of
more
them than in
people
the
vote.
previous.
More people voted in this election than ever before. There's
Well,
a
I
lot of
mean, like
metrics.
I not in the majority, but a higher percentage of the Latino population, excluding Cubans, because I know that Cubans voted a lot. A lot of Cubans in Florida voted for Trump, and that's what gave him the state. But by as large a margin as he got it. And
Well, let's see what NBC News has to say about it. Yeah, targeted outreach. That's what they were doing, and there was a lot of it. And I was in line with a Filipino immigrant to vote, who voted for Trump, and he said he voted for Trump because he was keeping the immigrants out, and he said it with an accent, and I thought it was kind of interesting.
that's so wild. That's so insane. That's crazy. Because I couldn't possibly imagine like immigrating to like Finland like I want to do. I couldn't possibly imagine doing that and then turning around and saying, you know what, I want it harder for people to come. What?
I don't know. I think it would be I think it'd be a lot like legalizing gay marriage, getting married to your spouse, and then saying, I don't want anyone else to be able to get married.
You know what? That's pretty good, except for the fact that it's like the gay people, in this analogy, gay marriage was already legal. They got married, then gay marriage got taken away, and then they're like, I don't want any other gay people getting married. It's that
Right.
levels of just what?
Yeah. It's just
and I don't understand
it's intuitively wrong when you put it in any other context.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Aaron?
Do we have any more comments from viewers?
I just had old stuff from Dark Sage that was going on, speaking about his or her experience online, and I was typing in chat, trying to respond to them while simultaneously talking with you guys.
Well, how far did that go? Did he explain
not
anything else
very.
about his experience? We could close out with that.
It didn't go that much farther. So, Dark Sage, this is from quite a while ago. What I said at the time, and this is based on the Charlottesville thing. What I said at the time was, quote, Mr. President, white supremacy is wrong in any form. Neo-Nazis should not have a platform, and you need to denounce these groups and their supporters. You also need to call out the violence that happened. No one needed to die, but you did nothing but allow them to have a voice. End quote. Because I said that, people on the far left, like Antifa, hated me because I said he needed to call out the violence. And his supporters hated me because I said I denounced white supremacy. And I ask anyone where in that statement I wrote above, do I in any way support or saying glorifying Antifa or white supremacy? That is what bothers me. No matter how much I try to call it out when I saw it, I was relentlessly attacked from both sides because I would not say Antifa or the white supremacists were right for sparking violence.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's go back and discuss that Antifa doesn't start violence.
Usually.
Is an organized thing. White supremacy has been organized in this country as terrorist groups, various terrorist groups in this country, for the last 100 or more years, since the Civil War, at least. We realize the sentiment, and it's very appreciated. But what you're doing is you are walking into a room where people are throwing fists at each other, and you're standing in between them and saying, I don't support either side. And you're expecting them to be nice to you. It's kind of an ignorant thing to expect. And maybe they were throwing punches or whatever, but that's what ignorant, stupid people do all the time. And you're walking into a crowd of ignorant, stupid people and being ignorant and stupid by interjecting. You have your opinion, and it's important that you have your opinion. You don't need to demonstrate your opinion to have it. You just need to see it in person to know whether you're right or wrong. And saying that while I voted for this president, I do not support his views on white supremacy. I also don't support Antifa violence. It's kind of this loaded sock that you're swinging around, and it reminds me of an old proverb.
You're blind firing basically into a crowd
from the Bible, and it says it's for Matthew, and he basically says that it's not a good idea to be the person standing on the street corner preaching because you've already gotten your reward. And that's the thing is when you're swinging that opinion around in those groups of people, your reward is the attention you got. whether it's good or bad, whether they supported you or not, you got the attention you wanted, and that's fine. You got it, but don't let your opinion be formed based on how people responded to your opinion.
Because let me say, Dark Sage, I have tried to argue and litigate over many different things with other leftists, and I get attacked more by other leftists than I do people on the right sometimes.
Because we disagree. We don't always agree on everything. We Tim and I had an argument about.
Yeah, we literally had an argument during this podcast.
We're not going to agree on the same topics, and we're still going to be chill, and eventually we'll all have a breakfast together when we're not scared of killing each other with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just we can be friends if we disagree, but we can't be friends if we disagree on the fact that whether I should live or die. If you disagree with me being alive, then I'm not going to be your friend.
I mean, yeah, and there are certain things that it's just like I can't be friends with somebody who supports a certain thing or doesn't support a certain thing.
Or my
generally,
friends.
it's not because somebody doesn't support something. It's usually because somebody does support something. So it's usually somebody supporting racism or somebody supporting neo-Nazism or white nationalism. Somebody supporting fascism, somebody supporting authoritarian communism, or tankies.
Right.
I don't really want to be friends with too many tankies. I don't, because their ideology, in my view, is dangerous. It has its separate dangers from that of fascism, but it's there. And they can say some pretty fucked up shit to justify what ultimately is like a kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a new phrase going around a lot as eco-fascism.
This is new.
Which is.
You never heard of eco-fascism?
No, I'm just wondering why this is a new phrase that's been going around. Because
I'll just try to explain.
I've heard of it, eco-fascism, before.
Oh, okay,
well, it's akin to eco-terrorism.
Yeah, but I mean, pretty much. It's just the fascist version of that. But being so for protecting the environment that you're willing to go out and kill people for it. Like that's the kind of shit that I'm not okay with. If possible, I would really like nobody to die needlessly over this sort of thing. I don't want like a Stalin like revolution kind of deal, I mean, there's a revolution of the proletariat. There's something to be said for that, as opposed to a violent eco-fascist coup, some weird thing like that. I mean, that just seems so. It's so backwards. You're arriving at the right conclusion, but you're getting the method wrong, in my opinion.
Well, sure, but I think I think this whole vilifying people for being ecological or conscientious.
Oh no, it's perfect. That's perfectly fine, and like I don't mind that.
No, you're not following me. I think it's another tactic like the cigarette companies use, the tobacco companies use, the pesticide companies use, and the bottling companies used when they vilified people for the products that they made. They said, "Oh, you're littering," and Pepsi got this huge fine for causing a whole bunch of litter. And then it became our problem to pick up the plastic bottles. When the issue was before they had recyclable glass bottles, and we did turn those in. After that, they switched to the plastic because it was cheaper. Then they were sued by the U.S. government. Then they turned that lawsuit into a commercial that blamed the public for the litter problem. This is just what's going on here. We have a Republican Koch brothers led pushback against ecological means of producing power, and they're using the same tactics, vilifying those who want eco-friendly shit by calling them eco-fascists, because it's what they called us.
That we're not referring to.
What?
No.
Eco.
Did I just go on a tangent about something and it has nothing to do with it?
Yeah, I think so.
To do that, you misunderstood. Eco-fascism is a very specific ideology. Like, there are actual self-described eco-fascists out there, and they believe in committing terrorist attacks against people in the name of propelling their, rather extreme, eco-friendly beliefs. Like, it's a legitimate ideology.
Let's kill all of the people that we need to kill and institute all of the policies that we need to do by force in order to correct our global warming problem.
I know that's what an eco-terrorist wants. So, and I know that all eco-terrorists are eco-fascists, but are all eco-fascists eco-terrorists?
Yeah. I mean, unless
Okay.
I would say so. I would say that a lot of eco-fascists don't do any terroristic actions, but they want to. So that's where I would end on that.
I know nothing. I know nothing about this, so I don't know if that was just like one of those I don't know if all Muslims are terrorists, but they all want to be kind of statement.
No.
But I mean, I know nothing about eco-fascist.
Using the word terrorist is very loaded anyway. They're quite violent in their methods. They're quite violent in their methodology and the way that they want to pursue the ending of climate change, or the
so like infrastructure attacks, stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, harming people. Let's blow up cities because the city is on top of nature.
And also things like, Amazon contributes however much pollution to the ocean every year. Let's go, kill Jeff Bezos and blow up, or like put him into a forced labor camp and take over the government, like that kind of like that. It's eco-fascism. It's exactly what it says on the tin, pretty much.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's fascism in the name of global. Excuse me. It is fascism in the name of environmentally friendly people. That's not the right word. It is fascism in the name of defeating global warming. There we go. Okay.
Hey. Well.
All right.
That's
basically the gist. Yeah.
I say, well, that was an interesting topic. I'll have to study more on that one, but.
Yeah, there's some interesting people, I guess.
I have nothing more to say on that one. I really don't know what.
I mean, I don't agree with them, but I suppose it's an interesting thing to learn about. But
I suppose I hope it's not really catching any. I mean, I hope it's like veganism and it just fizzles away or whatever.
I mean, veganism is still very much alive.
What?
And at the same point in time, I feel like eco-fascism is actually ramping up a bit. Because more and more people are becoming more and more concerned, as they ought to, within regards to the climate. But you get the people that are reactionary, and then those people are like, oh no, if we don't, change, like hit carbon neutral in 10 years, we're all, the world's going to get fucked up. permanently, we have to do this now, which means, forced military action and coups and terrorist plots and all that
Right.
jazz.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Well, if it's in the name of the environment,
Yeah.
yeah, no. But regardless, I mean, we've run kind of long. No, we've run about a normal time tonight.
Yeah.
And
Hours.
I think we got to most things that we wanted to get to. Does anybody else have something that they would like to talk about? Buttered toast? Buttered toast? Okay.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. No, there's really not much else I really need to add. I mean, I just want to get done with some of my school assignments
Okay.
before they're due tonight. So,
All right. So once again, this was the Co-op Soapbox podcast. My name, Rodon. It's Rodin. Awakened Rodon on Twitter and on Twitch. And you can follow me there. You can follow me here. And there's also a YouTube channel called the Co-op Soapbox podcast.
yes.
And you can subscribe to that on YouTube. And we post our podcasts, the entire things there, and we plan on posting clips.
Mhm. At some point.
It's your boy Eddie. Our thoughts on the election, we have gone over that. We do have that in our YouTube library at the moment, and also if you wanted to hear what we said about the election this time around, this stream has been recorded and it will be available as soon as the stream ends. Okay.
Yep.
I apologize that we can't get to your question, but we were going to end like right now, and you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
came
we're
in and asked a question. But we do value your questions. We start every Sunday at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. If you want to come in and join us live and ask your questions, then okay.
Don't ask about Stranger Things. I swear to God.
Yeah, we're done with that one.
We're done with Stranger Things.
We were done with that a year ago.
Yeah,
Pretty
apparently.
much.
But anyway, guys, that was it, and I hope y'all have a wonderful night.